Hey everybody, welcome to Tuesday. We're talking about censorship today. And part of the reason we're talking about censorship today is because my Twitch streams are returning in an altered format. It is going to be a just chatting so that people can just discuss current events. They may be politics, they may not be. But all I'm going to do is moderate and fact check. That's it. Unless somebody attacks somebody else, as long as somebody is not disrespecting other people, talk about any idea you want. That's what it's for, because I really get the sense a lot of people are really afraid to express themselves, and it's causing a lot of psychological stress in a lot of people. If you support endeavors like this, help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK. Obviously, I would prefer to play video games, right, than sit here and play Chat Mom. But I do believe in free speech. I do believe that the best antidote to bad speech is more good speech. But, and this is why I am very, very concerned about people being so afraid of online dog piles, being so afraid of somebody going to their employer and getting them fired. I think the reason a lot of people are so on edge right now is they feel stifled. And that's the underlying, if you want to call them categorical imperatives behind free speech, is that, people are smart enough to tell the difference between truth and lies, as long as you present them with both truth and lies, right? There's no way to subdivide that. You either believe it or you don't. That's not inferred from everything. That's like a base belief that you start with in order to get, and that's why we don't have to be worried about bad speech. We don't have to be worried about offensiveness within reason. Just let people say what they're going to say and let things get sorted out. Part of the reason everybody is freaking out so hard lately is you're seeing a lot of people believe that that experiment has failed. And I don't believe it has. I believe that we are actually currently living under a form of de facto censorship because people are subverting free speech principles to silence other people. If you go to the New York Times or anything with a text section right now, the main page looks kind of like this. In reversal, Twitter is no longer blocking New York Post article. Boy, that was predictable. Facebook and Twitter dodge a 2016 repeat and ignite a 2020 firestorm. The companies have said they would do more to stop misinformation and hack materials from spreading. This is what this effort looks like. YouTube cracks down on QAnon conspiracy theory, citing offline violence. YouTube has played a bigger role in moving QAnon from the fringes to the mainstream than most platforms. So everything is about what content Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube are allowing, and Facebook also includes Instagram, of course, but it's all about what's allowed on these various services and whether these changes are a good thing or a bad thing. This is fair to be concerned. I thought the whole blocking of the New York Post article related to, it was another Hunter Biden and Burisma thing. Wasn't it? Like, that was a weird one. Like, again, isn't the cake pretty much baked on that one? That's what I thought. But okay, they've decided they're going to block it, citing it's too close to the election. We don't want another butter emails, right? That wasn't the fault of social media. That was the fault of media. Like, people spreading social media stories wasn't the issue there. It's that the traditional news media created a false equivalency between Hillary Clinton's old lady email habits, mostly done by her staff, not her, and Donald Trump's everything, You know, the Hunter Biden thing isn't catching in the same way, but again, this is a tech and gaming channel, not a political channel, so let's leave that there. I'm just talking about my reaction there. It's like, really? Really? They think this is really damaging? The QAnon thing is a different matter. My opinion on that is it's a troll that got out of control. I really hope we find out who started that and continued it one of these days, because that's one for the books, man. Like, they couldn't have possibly imagined it would go that far, because it's just so absurd, right? The issue with this stuff is you've got people online who want to believe these things, right? Nobody who doesn't want to believe that the opposing political party is made up of horrible, evil people. People want to believe that so they don't have to listen to what the other side has to say. The issue with the whole QAnon thing, and I'll take YouTube's word for it, that people in real life are getting hurt because of this crazy stuff. And once that happens, you do kind of have to go, all right, enough's enough, right? I just think it's very weird that we live in an age where Facebook banned boobies before it banned Holocaust denial. That seems like a really strange choice. And Twitter, I don't think has banned boobies yet. Adult tag, you just put the sensitive material tag right on it, because people still have like those adult things on Twitter. See, Twitter makes more sense. Okay, you got Holocaust denial on your service, but you're letting tons of stuff that some people find offensive on your service. I find Holocaust denial offensive. Do I come across it very much on my Facebook feed? Well, no, because those aren't people I associate with. And that's where the sort of shift in social media happened, right? YouTube's a different story. YouTube is an online broadcaster. Calling it social media is kind of not the way YouTube works. Speaking to you from YouTube. Yes, people can leave comments. I suppose that is what makes it social media. But it's different than Facebook and Twitter, where you are choosing to let people talk to you. So the people absorbing this garbage want to absorb this garbage. You could argue that, oh no, you know, impressionable kids aren't. There are other ways to deal with this issue. Now, do I necessarily disagree with a company exerting its corporate right to not include stuff they believe to be... I'm trying to word this very carefully so I say what I really mean here. If a company believes that... Let me try it this way. There's precedent that a baker who believes it's wrong for gay people to marry don't have to bake a cake for a gay wedding. I'm okay with that. I'll go to another baker, you know? I got my wedding cake from a kosher bakery. I wouldn't go to an anti-Semite. No, but it's the only bakery in town. You can get married without a cake, okay? You're not being denied a right. Similarly, what's the skin off my nose if a bunch of people who hate me because I'm Jewish want to talk about how much they hate Jews? Well, when they do what they did a couple weeks ago and try to dogpile me into silence, then it's a problem. But it's that act of dogpiling that I talked about yesterday that is the problem, not their repellent, disgusting views. Because here's the thing about talking to somebody with repellent, disgusting views. Every so often, you can change somebody's mind just a little bit. You know, I've had a lot of success on the trans issue. A lot of success with people saying, okay, explain this to me. I had some success on explaining to people the whole sexual preference thing when we could talk without, fucking sea lion attacks. That's less important because that is an issue of whether a term has a deeper meaning, if it's a nudge, nudge, wink, wink term, or whether it's just kind of an archaic phrase. It's the underlying opinion that's the problem, right? Not the phrase itself. As opposed to, I hate Jews, Jew. Well, that's pretty on its face a problem, right? Like, that's just bigotry. People are allowed to be bigoted. They're not allowed to be bigoted at me in terms of employment or in terms of safety or anything, right? That's illegal, right? And that's the real question social media networks have to answer that I don't feel they have answered. I'm going to talk more about chilling speech tomorrow. I'm going to focus on censorship today. I still do not understand what's going to warp a child's mind because they see naked breasts. Graphic sex, I understand a bit better. But boobs? I don't get it. Like, I really don't. It's as though, they're seeing women as sexual. Well, no, not. I hate to break it to you. If your son is straight or bisexual, or your daughter is gay or bisexual, they're going to be looking at women sexually at some point. The idea is how to interact with that in a healthy way. And I think that making it evil is bad. One of the best things my parents ever did was just handed me a biology book on human development, complete with the old school puberty slides that it was just anatomical drawings. And it's like, oh, okay. It wasn't Playboy, but we saw Playboy. There was a box of Playboy somebody left next to the parking lot in the townhouse we lived in, and there was a box of them, and we were like, what's this? Oh, didn't scar us for life. The minute Facebook did that, something was wrong, right? Because they left all this other content on. And so people can argue you banned stuff that was hurting nobody and kept on stuff that arguably is harmful, right? So this argument that Facebook just believed in free speech was just not true. It did ban certain content. My personal belief is that the only thing social media sites should be banning is stuff that is intended to frighten people into chilling speech, and therefore is a form of censorship in and of itself. Now, one could argue, well, that means you're letting terrorist recruiting videos in. No, because what is terrorism? It's terrorizing people, which is trying to force them to do something because they're afraid. That's not freedom of expression. Similarly, I don't think that people should be getting people dogpiled. I think, and this is impossible to enforce, and I'll talk more about this tomorrow. I'm saying that in a perfect world, this would be the case. I recognize it's impossible to enforce. I believe that deliberate dogpiling is a form of de facto censorship. You're not arguing somebody on the merits. You're just trying to shut them up. That's not a free speech position. The same thing with these shame tactics is disinformation. This disinformation, and I never remember if misinformation is a deliberate one or whatever, you know what I mean? People who deliberately put up fake shit to try to smear someone, to ruin the reputation so people won't listen to them. Or as a you better join our side or else tactic, that is a form of censorship because it's you better join our side or else. This tribalism that is happening politically, and both extremes participate in this, is a form of deplatforming, which is a form of censorship. And I take no issue with social media services removing people who are constantly committing things like defamation in an attempt to run someone off the service, in an attempt to just maliciously ruin someone. I don't have a problem with that, because that's trying to take away someone else's right to that platform. That is my line. And I think that's the only line that's workable online. Because now that, you know, that reversal Twitter did on that New York Post article, like that was inevitable, okay? The minute that happened, I kind of giggled and I was like, well, we'll see how long this lasts. Because of course, what did a bunch of conservative blowhards, I'm not saying all conservatives are blowhards, I'm saying some conservatives are blowhards, some liberals are blowhards. In this case, the conservative blowhards were just linking to stuff off Twitter, directing people to Parler and stuff like that. You can't, the New York Post, it's a tabloid. But it's a publication. It's a legal publication in the US. You can't... No one in their right mind can argue that that was the right move. Okay? Like, just from a... That means you have to... That means Twitter becomes an arbiter of truth instead of an arbiter of good behavior. And you just, you can't be. I learned from Gamergate how messed up that can get. You know, this is why I'm against block lists. A bunch of people put me on a blocked me. Just let a tool block me, make their own decision for them, because somebody maliciously put me on that list. Because I was, according to them, pro Gamergate. It was just following certain people. Well, I was reporting on it initially. Of course I'm following people on both sides. On a list. That's ridiculous. That's punishing people to eliminate their freedom of association, right? The right to gather. It's anti-First Amendment, right? Like, it's nuts. It's nuts. You can't do these things. It's wrong. It's wrong because it's censorious, right? And this is why I go, I don't like this, but let them do it. Because if I don't do that, then when an unpopular view, like my views on trans people, that issue's moved so fast. I remember when I first started saying, no, trans identities are legitimate identities. I've said for quite a while that I actually believe it's physiological. It's not socially constructed. It's not psychological. It's actually at the hormone level or something. And more, we're starting to realize that's true. So that's real. But that was so unpopular on all sides, right? Didn't mean I wasn't right. Now, should that view have been suppressed because it was unpopular? No. And I don't understand why Facebook and Twitter are doing these weird arbitrary things and making these weird confounding statements where if you just look at their record, it's very clear. Facebook is not a free speech platform. Give me a break, right? Like, it's come out that if we just let our fact-checking tool and you can't have 2 strikes in terms of misinformation in 90 days, if we just let that run, well, more conservative sites are going to be caught in that than liberal sites. So we have to give conservative sites a pass because we don't want to be accused of having an anti-conservative bias. So what they've done is created a pro-conservative bias. There's 2 sets of rules for 2 different sets of groups. That's a bias. But you'll get people going, libtard, all that stuff. Just noise, trying to shut a person up. And this is where I'm going with this. This is where I'm going to land here. Go shorter than yesterday, because yesterday was long. It had to be. You cannot claim to be pro-free speech and then participate in exercises where all you do is scream at someone to get them to shut up. That is not a pro-free speech position. If you truly believe in free speech, you have to be able to debate people on the merits of their ideas and not engage in some sort of character assassination exercise. That's not free speech. That's a form of censorship. It is. If you look at all the dirty history of government propaganda, that's what the insidious stuff was, right? If you look at propaganda, I took courses on propaganda in university, okay? This is something I have a little bit of awareness of. What propaganda does is it circumvents the intellect and goes into emotion and identity. So be a patriot, buy war bonds, right? You're not saying war bonds are a great investment that, is a safe return and, you'll earn some money. It'll be worth more than when you cash it out than when you do. No. That would be an intellectual argument. Be a patriot is purely emotional, right? It's the same thing with all the, anti-Jewish propaganda during World War II. They were trying to depict through images and stuff like that, and this was true of anti-Black propaganda. And whenever a group of people is drawn as monstrous, that is trying to depict them as less than human, so it's okay to treat them poorly. Again, completely emotional appeal, right? That's what, and this is why I showed you guys the thing yesterday. That's what these moral grandstanding. Oh, you're a hypocrite. That's what it is. You're not engaging at all on the merits of what I've said. You're trying to shut me up because you can't engage with what I've said and win. Why do I say that? Not because I'm a mind reader, because think about it logically. If you can engage with someone's ideas and win, well, that's the most direct route to success, right? They only do these character assassination tactics because they don't think that's going to work, right? You only move on to that argument when your argument based on facts is not a very good one. Makes sense, right? So the best thing free speech advocates can do, especially in gaming, is promote high quality speech. It's not just about having the right idea. It's about expressing yourself in an effective way. Because that's the way to get companies like Sony to ease off. Is show that we can be adults about this stuff. Because right now, what happened? A whole bunch of people screamed at Sony. Sony basically, the Japanese wing of Sony was like, we don't know what's going on. California office, what is going on? California office said, people are offended by boobs, so take out the boobs. Okay, you know best. That's what happened. It's not evil. That's actually quite humble, right? We don't understand your culture. You're in this culture. Tell us what to do. Now, screaming at Sony because they did this isn't going to make them reverse themselves. It's not. Because if both sides are screaming at them, they can't win no matter what they do. So it doesn't make sense to change anything. If all they're doing, okay, they've made this group go quiet. Now another group's been screaming at them, but at least this group is quiet. You have to give them time to recognize that the group that they cave to is not the group that buys their products. And screaming at them is not going to convince them of that. That's the best thing to do. Again, I know this is an unpopular idea, but instead of telling me I'm stupid, instead of going bad take, which says nothing, tell me why you think I'm wrong. If you want censorship lifted, show you can communicate in a rational adult way. That's the best way to lift restrictions I've ever seen. Because when everybody behaves themselves, we don't need rules. The whole reason these social media platforms held out, and then put in rules is something forced their hand, probably a lawsuit somewhere. So if you like this sort of content, one more tomorrow about chilling speech, which I have no idea how that's going to go. That's a rabbit hole. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK. And again, join us on Twitch tonight for discussion without dogpiling. Thanks for watching.